Hello there, my name is Thomas O'Regan, and today I just wanted to talk about the 1% rule when it comes to property investing. Now, it may come to a shock to some of those people out there that have never invested in property before, or they're investing in stocks or shares or other assets that don't depreciate in value, but properties do depreciate in value, and they do have maintenance issues, and they do have wear and tear issues, they do have repair issues, and they do have CapEx issues. Now, before you buy any properties, you should definitely be accounting for these costs in your wealth creation plan, in your investment plan. And, if you just basically just account for those issues, right? Create a budget, whether that's some money you put aside for the property each week, year, month, whatever, to factor in when. So you've got a buffer there for if any large ticket issues come up within the CapEx repair and maintenance category. Okay, so basically and this is a good rule of thumb to go by if you just want to quickly assess what it may cost you to maintain and upkeep and spend in terms of capital works on an investment property that you're looking at. And the value of the property, generally 1% of the value of the property, is what you will spend on repair, maintenance, and CapEx per year. So, for example, if you have a property that is worth $100,000, which is very cheap and it's almost impossible to buy a property that's worth $100,000, it's going to cost you about $1,000 a year for the CapEx on that property, for the maintenance, for the repairs on that property. Okay, and it may not be every single year, but it may be one big one in 8 years or something like that. But it's not like say if you're putting $1,000 towards the property for these CapEx costs, in the first year you don't incur the cost, and the second year you don't incur the cost. It's not like you should just disintegrate the budget or stop creating that buffer for that cost. It's just like there hasn't been an issue yet, so let's just keep creating that buffer, so when the time comes, the money is there. So when the time comes that you need to replace the roof, the money is there. When the time comes that you need to paint the property, the money is there. It doesn't need to happen every year. Now, for example, I just want to give an example which is kind of interesting. So if you live here in Sydney, you may drive across the Opera House. Sorry, you may drive across the Harbour Bridge. You may not, but you would for sure know what the Harbour Bridge is, right? The Harbour Bridge, when you drive across it, you never think that it's being maintained. It's not a thought that pops up in most people's heads, right? They just think, they drove across it 20 years ago, they drive across it today, it's always there, it's just standing. No thought goes into, oh wow, there's people painting, there's a whole crew of people painting and maintaining this bridge as time goes on. They never think of how expensive it is to maintain the bridge. The fact is, a bridge costs whatever it costs. Maybe it costs $1 billion, maybe it costs a couple $100 million. It was built a long time ago when money wasn't that high as high as it is now. But basically, the cost of the Harbour Bridge, a good estimate of how much that costs to maintain would be, it costs to maintain, 1% of whatever it costs to build it in the first place. And then as time goes on, as inflation goes on, it just is probably costing around 1% of whatever the value of the Harbour Bridge is. So remember, if you're buying property, you do have to account for CapEx, you do have to account for repair and maintenance. And if you see a property that is needing repair and maintenance, it doesn't mean it's a bad investment. It just means you need to account for the cost you're going to incur, and because of that, it could actually be a good investment if you know how to do your numbers, because most novice investors see a property that needs repair and maintenance and they just say, I don't want to buy that property because it's a bad investment and it needs work. So many people that don't understand property investing see a property that needs work or that needs maintenance or whatever, and they think it's a bad investment. As I said at the start of the video, every single property, because it's a property, it appreciates, it is going to need repair and maintenance. If you're not comfortable with that, then don't invest in property. Go buy a share. You won't make as much money in shares, but there may be perceived less risk, or it may be perceived that it's easier. But and I guess I just want to highlight the point that properties have repair and maintenance, and that someone could be selling them at its lowest point, can actually mean that if you know how to negotiate, you can actually get a better deal than you would otherwise if the property was all 100% okay. You could buy a property that's for $50,000 less, that only needs $20,000 of repair, because the people see it as such a big issue that they have to give a huge discount for it, because the majority of people have just looked at it and said, I don't want to buy that because I don't want to buy a property that needs maintenance and repairs, as if properties never need maintenance or repairs. Now, properties need maintenance or repairs. Like, if you get used to it, understand it, factor it in as cost when you're buying, and you'll be sweet with property investing. See ya, bye.